for the president.
Well, let's get to the latest Iowa polls, where Mayor Pete Buttigieg is seeing a clear surge of support. In the CNN Des Moines Register poll, Mayor Pete is up 16 points, count them, since September, putting him in first place with 25%. Senator Elizabeth Warren comes in second, 9 points behind with 16%. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders follow, both tied at 15% each, while Senator Amy Klobuchar sits at 6%.
So let's stop right there. We'll get to CB's poll in a second. But, Adrian, let's keep those numbers up. And, you know, there are three things that stand out here. One, of course, Pete Buttigieg. He's in a great place right now, 9 points ahead in this poll. He is surging. You look at his favorables, they're higher than everybody else's. This guy is in good shape, and I'm not so sure it's going to be easy for them to attack Pete the way they attacked Elizabeth, which leads to the second line. Elizabeth Warren, she definitely has plateaued over the past month. I'm not saying that it's going to be, but, you know, she was on an upswing. I'm not saying it's certainly fatal for her, but there is no doubt Medicare for all and the math behind it has caused Democrats to take a second look there. And Joe Biden also, he's down 5. Biden, though, has plateaued in a lot of polls we've seen over the past week. And there's Bernie holding in there at 15%. But no doubt, Mayor Pete is on the rise. And for now, at least, Senator Warren has plateaued.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Joe. I mean, first of all, this is great news. You know, undeniably for Mayor Pete in this poll, this is the first time that we've seen him on top. He's 9 points above his second-place rival, Elizabeth Warren. You couple that, Joe, with the fact that Mayor Pete has the strongest ground game in Iowa. That's a very well-known fact. He's got over 100 people on staff. He's got 20 field offices. So you couple his strength in this poll with the strong ground game, and that is a recipe for success in Iowa. Now, I do want to point out there is a little bit of good news here, I think, for Joe Biden in this poll, because when you get into some of the deeper questions in the poll, one of them being what is the most important priority for you as a voter, as a caucus goer? The number one priority is electing somebody who can beat Donald Trump. And that person still in this poll is Joe Biden. 25% of caucus goers said that they still believe that he is the most electable against Donald Trump. So, again, you couple that with the fact that, as you mentioned, Joe Biden is staying pretty steady, sort of plateaued around 15%. That's good news for him. And he's also doing well in some of the other early state polling as well, most notably, of course, South Carolina. I think the biggest challenge for Mayor Pete, to the point is, you mentioned, is how does he get a more diverse coalition? How does he attract African-American voters? That doesn't necessarily, that doesn't really matter so much in Iowa, but it does matter if you're going to be successful during the duration of this primary. I think on Wednesday night for the debate, Joe, I'm looking forward to seeing who goes after Mayor Pete. He's now the front runner in Iowa. There's got to be somebody on that debate stage who attacks him. I don't really know what they attack him on because he doesn't have a voting record.
You're too nice.
You know, I mean, he's been the mayor of South Bend. He doesn't have a voting record, but someone on that stage is going to go after him. I don't think it's going to be Joe Biden. I don't think it's going to be Elizabeth Warren. They've notoriously not gone after, not lodged attacks on their opponents.
Right.
But is it going to be Amy Klobuchar? Is it going to be Cory Booker? Well, we'll see.
Well, so my warning to any Democrats that are going to attack Mayor Pete, you've attacked other people on the stage that aren't intellectually nimble. He's intellectually nimble, so you better prepare your attack, because I promise he will turn it back around on you. He's different than the others. He is a really skilled political athlete. Let me ask you, Rev. So you know this better than anybody. Somebody can walk into a black church and they're immediately embraced, and they're part of it. Other people walk into the black church, and they seem like they're on Mars. I'm not naming any names, but we saw one or two people who looked like they had been dropped in from Mars at Elijah's funeral.
Right.
So Mayor Pete right now is sort of in that second group. And the question is, if this guy does win Iowa,
he could,
does well in New Hampshire, he's got to make that turn to South Carolina. He's had trouble connecting. I know you've talked to him a lot. How does he make that turn?
He has to talk to people, and you're right. You have to show a comfort level among people of color if people of color are going to be comfortable voting for you, and that's the challenge. And I think that part of the issue he is going to have to deal with is the policing issue in South Bend. I think that.
Can we talk about the other issue too? He's gay.
And
nobody wants to talk about that on TV.
Yep.
You and I are going to talk about it right now. For older black voters who are conservative with a small c, who the same day Barack Obama got elected in 2008, helped vote down in California the marriage equality amendment.
Right.
Like, that's a challenge for him. How does he get past that challenge?
It's a challenge. And it's not only a black challenge for older voters.
Right.
Still
Older
white and
voters,
black.
white and black.
But I think the question is he's got to confront it. He has to say, and I've said this to him, that yes, I'm gay. Yes, that is my orientation. And everybody in here, you may not support my life, but everybody in here has members in your family that is gay. And are you saying they shouldn't be president? You've got to face it, deal with it directly, has been my counsel to him. And he has to deal with the South Bend issue. But you're absolutely right. In South Carolina, there's a difference between those that show they're comfortable in a black church or those, I'm a preacher, that acts like they just happen to run in here running from the police or something because they don't belong in here. So you wonder, what are they here for? Like, are they hiding from somebody?
See, not a good look in a political campaign.
Right.
Not a good look at all.
Well, it depends on where he has to go confront it, because he's talked about it. He's very comfortable talking about it.
And I think he has to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
He has to keep confronting it. And he has to bring people to their reality. This is 2019.
I think you're right.
I don't know a black family that doesn't have a gay member in their family. So let's stop acting like we're not in the real world.
Given his ability as a candidate, we've all witnessed thus far, I could see a set speech dedicated to that one topic, Joe, that you just raised, and I could see him knocking the ball out of the park.
Gosh, I totally agree with you.
Well, it would be, Rev, would it not? It would be the equivalent for him if he were to win Iowa and moved into New Hampshire with momentum. It would be the equivalent of Barack Obama's 2008 speech on race.
That's exactly right. When he went to Philadelphia and dealt head on when the issue was raised about his pastor, that's how you deal with this. And the other thing that I think that he would have to keep in mind, I'm talking about Mayor Pete, is what happens as now Deval Patrick comes in, who does come off like a secular preacher. Nobody's better in that platform than Deval Patrick. So you've got to factor the new landscape post this debate this
I don't
week.
get his path. I don't see it. Is there a path? I don't
know if there is a path you can see now, but if they clean some of the bushes out the way on Wednesday
there are
night,
a lot.
it may be a path that clear.
All right, in the CBS News YouGov poll, Sanders and Biden top the field in Iowa with 22% each, while Buttigieg comes in just 1 percentage point short at 21%. Again, look at his movement here. Warren sits at 18%, while both Klobuchar and Harris round out the top 6 with 5% each. And in the latest CBS News YouGov New Hampshire poll, Senator Elizabeth Warren leads that race by 9 points with 31%. Former Vice President Joe Biden follows Warren with 22%, along with Senator Bernie Sanders at 20% and Mayor Pete at 16%.
Dave, what do you see in all the polls? Dave Wasserman.
Yeah, well, you know, Pete's surge is real, first of all, but where is it coming from? I think it's coming from the additional scrutiny on Elizabeth Warren. What has her base of support been? It's been whites with college degrees. Those voters are now thinking, well, she might be a little too liberal for the general electorate, so where am I going to go? Maybe Pete Buttigieg. The problem for him is, where does he go after Iowa? And Adrienne was absolutely right. It's difficult for him right now to expand his appeal beyond that demographic. And look, I think the problem for him in the upcoming months is going to be, does he survive the scrutiny over, changing his position on Medicaid for all? Or Medicare for all? Does he survive scrutiny on kind of being on that Harvard management consultant, McKinsey glide path? And traditionally, candidates who have been surging in Iowa at this point with 2.5 months to go, they don't have a great track record of being able to sustain that momentum, which is why I think, if I were Klobuchar or if I were Sanders looking at the results of this poll, I'd also be pretty optimistic.
All right, Dave Wasserman, thank you very much for being on this morning.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.